What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel, and hope you guys are doing well out there. I'm Jay, and today we're talking about... there's so much to talk about, honestly. I don't really have a subject for today's video, aside from the economy is still subpar. Gas prices have gone up. We've got, I would say, Biden 2.0 in the White House. And we've got a whole bunch of other side things going on, like the Charlie Kirk investigation. And that seems to be questionable and shady, and everything else that's going on there. We've got Donald Trump and the whole Israel merging of the United States military with the Israeli military, which is just, the Constitution is like really getting beat up here. And I will say that at least one of the big points that I want to start out with is that the Constitution has always been a deterrent. Well, not a deterrent. It should have been a deterrent. But it is a hindrance to those who are trying to take advantage of we the people. And unfortunately, I feel like, just like the Bible has become, how do I say this? What the Bible is to most churches today, the Constitution is to the government today. The government does not regard the Constitution. The government is always trying to sidestep the Constitution. Even the parties, the two-party system, so-called, picks and chooses which amendments it supports and which amendments it doesn't like. Right? So you've got Democrats who don't like the Second Amendment. You've got Republicans that, depending on what's going on, don't like the First Amendment. Nobody seems to pay attention to the Eighth Amendment, which is excessive fines, having to do with excessive fines. Forget about being safe in your person and so on from search and seizure, right? Because search and seizure has kind of gone out the window with the technical stuff, the communications companies, the AI and the tech bros and all that other stuff. All of that has kind of gone out the window. And nobody can ever look at nobody looks at the system that we're in, where they say that if you're a private entity, that certain amendments don't apply to you. So a private corporation, the First Amendment does not apply, basically, is the argument that I've heard. The thing with the whole Facebook situation, where they were removing people's posts and they were restricting speech on the pandemic. And you go to most jobs that you work at, I worked in a warehouse for a while, and you had to sign something that basically said that you allowed them, under suspicion, they reserved the right to search your vehicle. And if you had a gun in your vehicle, it was automatic termination, or automatic write-up leading to termination, but you know how that stuff goes. So the Constitution did not apply to them, at least certain amendments of the Constitution. And it's always made me ask this question, this particular question. You might remember, let's look it up real quick. I believe it's the 14th Amendment. Yes, I read the Constitution. No, I don't have it completely memorized. So 14th Amendment, well, this is not what I'm talking about, but 14th Amendment is birthright citizenship. Excuse me. 13th Amendment abolished slavery and involuntary servitude across the United States. And the exception that it gives is that if you're imprisoned for a crime, the state does have the right to allow you to do work as part of your sentence. Okay, it's kind of where we get community service as well, which I'm not against. I'm not against if you have been legitimately and legally convicted of a crime, especially if the crime is bad. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But the 13th Amendment says no slavery. But all these people all these corporations, all these entities that are private companies, right? Privately owned, private corporations, etc. Tell me how the 13th Amendment applies to that, applies to private entities. Because let's face it, most slave owners were private entities. How is it that the 13th Amendment applies to them, but the First and Second Amendments do not apply to them? Tell me how that argument is made. Tell me how that makes sense. That, oh, okay, well, because I'm not a government entity, because I'm not directly tied to the government, that I can skate by and say, oh, yeah, I'm a private corporation, therefore I don't have to follow certain amendments. I don't have to allow my workers to have certain freedoms that are guaranteed to them by the United States Constitution. We pick and choose our amendments. And that's the biggest downfall throughout the years of the United States of America, is that throughout the history of the U.S., the Constitution has been the founding document, the law of the land, and at the same time has been, well, we don't do that one here. We don't follow that one here. The Second Amendment, oh, that's a Republican thing. The First Amendment, oh, that's a Democrat thing. Or heck, nowadays that's a third party thing, because it's really becoming a third party amendment, while left and right decide to use it according to their own whims. It's not a good place to be as a country. It's never been something that the government has really stood by. It's always been a thing where everybody, not everybody in the government, but a lot of people in the government have always looked at the Constitution as something to get around, something to, well, I don't like that, right? Even the situation with immigration, which, mind you, I'm going to be quite honest, I'm not for open borders, come one, come all, we'll put you up in a fancy motel in New York City, like the Democrats were doing. At the same time, in the same breath, I think that there's a lot that has been done by ICE that the Founding Fathers would have been like, no, whoa there, buddy. This is a problem. At the very least, it's a problem. I do think we have to have immigration laws that are, there's no amendment, for example, there's no amendment that says you get to come here no matter what. And I understand that nowadays versus at the start of our country, there was a lot to go around at the beginning. And nowadays, especially with AI, which is another thing that we need to talk about. I'm not going to cover all of it right now, but the fact that we allow unfettered AI growth, unfettered private equity to come in and do whatever they dang well please to our country, to our resources. You know, oh yeah, take our water, take our housing, take our resources. Forget we the people. Pfft. What, are you old-fashioned? Are you stuck on an old-fashioned document from the 1700s? And you'll hear it from, I mean, when Obama and Biden were in office, they were talking about the Constitution as, you know, well, not the Constitution in general, but the Second Amendment. Oh yeah, that was that's old-fashioned. Oh, that's, they weren't that smart back then. They were stupid. They didn't realize what was going to happen today. Well, you know what? Constitutions are built and have been built for years, for the history of mankind, including the Magna Carta of the British Empire, which they kind of sidestepped. The constitutions are the last thing legally between freedom and imprisonment, freedom and fascism, freedom and communism. Okay? Democrats are afraid of fascism, Republicans are afraid of communism. Fascism and communism are very similar. They fight for, one side will fight for one side of the coin and the other side will fight for the other side of the coin. The Republicans will fight for heads and the Democrats will fight for tails, or vice versa, but you know what? Both sides are of the same coin. And I learned that a ways back. I had some hope in the Trump presidency because, let's face it, the promises sounded better than some of the stuff, the what he was running on. He seemed, or at least acted, like he actually cared about you and I, about we the people, about actually governing a country the way the Constitution dictates. And then it all went to shit. Right? It all went to crap. Thomas Massey, who by, I forget which poll it was one of the greatest, I would say still is, but consistently, statistically, was one of the greatest defenders of the Constitution. Was he perfect? No. Nobody is. But there's a difference between effort. There's a difference between trying and not trying. There's a difference between effort and lack of effort. Effort versus laziness. Where he has consistently stood by that, just like Ron Paul. If anybody remembers Ron Paul, so many people ridiculed him. And it seemed like the reason they ridiculed him was because he was on the side of the Constitution. They will always ridicule you if you're on the side of the Constitution. if you're on the side of the original ideas of this country, the original founding documents of this country, the rights of the citizen, ooh, scary and dangerous. That's dangerous. Well, you know what? That's what it was founded on. And nowhere in history did taking away the rights of the people ever result in a better world, in a better country. Nowhere did that ever happen. You can ask the people of North Korea if they're better off because they have no freedom. You can ask the people of China during certain, parts in history, certain periods in history, and people in Russia during certain periods in history. You can ask the people under the World War II regime, and I'm saying the World War II regime because I don't know if saying the word is going to affect the algorithm. There we go. There's another situation. There's certain words you cannot use on YouTube, on this platform, because freedom of speech ain't their thing. It ain't their thing. It isn't their thing, guys. It's insane. It's not what we were founded on. And if this is where we're going, I would be concerned. At the very least, be concerned. And there's so much fluff and filler out there. There's so many people with fancy this and fancy that. There's influencers that I think they're going broke too, by the way. But there's been this world of the Kardashians and reality TV, so-called pageants, American Idol. There's so much stuff that people are so focused on, and it's so important, including, I like a football game as much as anybody else. Okay, yes, I watch football. But there's so many people that are so stuck that you go to the water cooler conversations, I guess you could say, or whatnot, or you're on break with a fellow employee, and they're all talking about football, or they're all talking about the World Cup. They're all talking about stuff that is not going to affect their future, stuff that's not going to affect their taxes, their freedoms, their rights. I'm not saying not to talk about this stuff, but I mean, it's all that anybody really talks about in most places. In most places, you don't talk about politics. You don't talk about religion. And ironically, those are the two things that affect, that affect our future as people. They affect what freedoms we have, what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. This country, for crying out loud, has become the home of the HOA. When did that ever become a thing? And they're a private entity. What happened to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? I understand the original purpose of HOAs, I do. But it's become this World War II style, Germany World War II style thing that basically if you signed the dotted line, you are no longer in America, philosophically speaking. You are in the United States of the HOA. Think about that for a minute. Where have we gone in this country? I'll leave it with that. I'll leave it at that for the moment. Please I try not to ask people to, I don't like to ask people to, you know, like, share, subscribe, all that. What I would like people to do is to at least share some of this stuff out for people to see. Share it so maybe people will think about things like this. Because a lot of people don't. And I'm not the smartest guy. It's taken a lot of time for me to look at stuff the way I do today. But if you can share this to somebody, I try not to cuss. I try not to make it embarrassing or stupid. I'm just trying to get. I'm just trying to get a message across, right? I'm trying to be a Paul Revere of sorts, and we should all kind of be that. So, and I do ask, comment below if you think I'm on the target, if I'm off the target, whether you agree or not. It's freedom of speech. The comment section is freedom of speech. I don't lock it down like some content creators do. Obviously, I'm sure there's some things when it comes to the platform itself where maybe comments can cause problems in a video. But whatever. I'm just trying to get information out there. I'm trying to hopefully maybe make people think, not necessarily the way I think, but the way that the Founding Fathers thought. People that came from countries that were oppressive. That's what I'm trying to do on this. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you for watching. I will catch you next time.